Hey, Cardinals fans, welcome back to the Redbird Rundown. I'm Jonathan, joined by Matt and Scott, and we're excited to have Ethan Hannaford with us today. He hosts the Lou Sports Talk podcast and is a contributor for STL Sports Central. Ethan, how are you doing on this fine evening?
Couldn't be better. Appreciate you guys having me on. Looking forward to diving into it.
Yeah, man, it's going to be an interesting time. We'll see how it goes because today, folks, this is going to be a brand new segment that we're going to do today. It is a saber metrics style guessing game using stat lines from the Cardinals' first handful of games with no names attached. Now, saber metrics, if you don't know what that is, you're going to hear some stats you've never heard of. This is not just batting average, RBIs, things like that. So fret not, I will try to explain some of them, or I won't, and you'll just be lost like everybody else. The challenge for the guys today is that since this is such a small sample size, just a few games, are they going to be able to figure out who is behind these numbers if I give them these very random things? I've already told them prior to this not to lose because there is something that the loser has to do at the end that they're probably not going to want to do. But a quick reminder, check out our Patreon. You can join for free and hop into our new Discord for live game chats throughout the week. We just launched that, had that today. That was exciting. If you're familiar with Discord, it can get interesting very quickly. So be sure to check that out. And if you want to support us a little bit further, for a $5 subscription, you get access to our weekly bonus episode, which again is exciting. Discord's spicy. The bonus episode spicier.
Yes,
on the
spicier.
Taco Bell range?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You'll just have to watch or listen to find out. Download that Patreon app, search Redbird Rundown to join. We're going to kick off this sabermetric guessing game right after a word from our sponsor. You know, in baseball, the little decisions matter. Do you swing at the first pitch or wait for your spot? Do you go for three or hold up at second? The right call can make all the difference. Making the right insurance decision feels pretty good, too. That's why State Farm agent Scott Owens in Mount Vernon, Illinois, is ready to help you choose the coverage that fits your lineup and your budget. Scott and his team will walk you through your options so you know exactly what to expect if the unexpected steps up to the plate. With Scott Owens, it's easy to make the right call. Just give him a call today at 618-242-3770. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. All right, guys. Are you ready for this? Matt, Scott?
I'm ready.
When Ethan came on the show,
like
yeah.
Do you guys remember the kids game Guess Who, where you like flip the people up and you're like red hair, no, and they put it all in. This is what I feel like, except it's sabermetrics in baseball. So I'm in. I do not think it's going to be Rick. I'm pretty sure Rick was a bald redhead with a beard, I think.
Okay, two things. When Ethan joined the show, he looked ready for this. No one knows what this is, but he looks so ready. And then number two, for all of you watching, Matt, do you just want to tell them real quick what we're working with here? Because you look a little different than everybody else.
Speaking of working with, I am in the Hilton workout room. So if I mute and run out midway, it's because someone came in here to pump some iron, and I'm just trying to be a good neighbor, like State Farm.
Whatever counts as gym time. I mean, you did check in.
That's right.
Let me get my Apple Watch going here.
That's right. All right, let's get into this. Just to give you a hint here, the first batch of players we're talking about are hitters. Pitchers will be later. These are hitters, batters. Okay. Number one, first stat. This person is running a 22.7% K rate, which is 11% lower than 2025. They have an 88.2 zone contact percent, which is 15% higher than 2025, and are running a very cool 127 WRC Plus, which for all the folks out there, that is 27% better than the average Major League hitter. I'm going to start with Scott in his awesome Mother's Day Cardinals hat. Real quick, who is this?
I'm going to guess it is my boy. Bring me the Gorm, feed me Gorm. I'm a Gormaniac. Nolan Gorman.
Okay, Nolan Gorman. Ethan, what you think?
I'm going to go with Jordan Walker. His numbers through the first handful of games would have been higher than this, but he has cooled off the last couple of games. So that leads me to think that this might be the range for Jordan Walker.
Okay. Matt, workout Matt?
I concur. I'm going to go with Ethan. This is Jordan Walker. Has had a few strikeouts here in the last few games, but on the whole, much better start to the season than we were afraid of.
All right, I am so happy to say that the winner is Scott this round. It is
No!
Nolan Gorman. Nolan Gorman. So Scott, you won this round. I have a question for you, my friend, and we'll get the
$7
rest of
million
the cast in here.
for my entire Nolan Gorman card collection. Yes, that's fine.
Can't you feel the inflation happening on those graded cards in the moment?
Yeah,
right.
you talked about having a gold chain with my one card. I'm talking
Yes.
about five chains with my 5 cards.
Exactly. Perfect. All right, Scott, with this lower K percentage, we're talking about 11% lower than 2025. That's a legitimate change. And I don't know if you guys have ever looked at zone contact percent. That's insane to me that it's 15% higher. So we're talking about everything that's in the square. He's queuing this up extremely well. Do you think, Scott, that he can actually hit something like 35, 40 home runs this year with something like this?
Non-biased, yes. I think that what we're going to see, the K percentage, I think we're going to see pop up still a little bit more. But the zone percentage, when we had that kind of one-on few with Ali Marmol, my specific question with him was about Nolan Gorman and what we saw in spring training and if that can carry over. And he specifically mentioned the slowing of the bat speed just so that he could work on making that contact. And then we're going to start seeing it slowly progress as he gets more comfortable. So it's been good to see it transfer from spring training, at least thus far, to where he's making contact at those pitches in the zone. And now as he's going to start getting more confident in it, hopefully we're going to see a little bit more of those 450-foot homers for 30 Kyle Schwarber type homers.
I love it. I love it. All right, Ethan, what do you think about this Nolan Gorman stat? How do you feel about him so far this year?
I mean, it's been a very optimistic start to the year. I think the hard part about any of these breakdowns, any of these conversations this early in the year is that everything is so heavily under the microscope and you don't really have a good sample yet. But I think that people tend to lean a little bit more into the optimistic things than the negative things that they see. I don't know if that's because the fan in all of us wants it to work out or if it's just kind of needing a little bit more time to be able. I think you're just always going to lean towards if things are looking good early, then it stretch on rather than what needs to change. Certainly, you mentioned the swing speed, Scott, and that slowing down. It seems to have been working at least in the first handful of games. So I think that there certainly is a world where Nolan Gorman can be a very effective hitter at the major league level. And let's be honest, the Cardinals need him to be, if they're going to want to have this rebuild occur with some pace, because there aren't a lot of power options, not only at the major league level, but in the organization, really. So if Nolan Gorman is able to end up being a guy that can club 30, 35, maybe 40, as you said, how much faster does that make this entire process go? It would be game changer for the heart of the lineup.
Could have said it better. Matt, I know Scott has a vested interest in his mortgage, his retirement, his car payments, and Gorman hitting these home runs for these cards. How do you feel about all this?
I think the key with Gorman, I'm going to call it the freezing point with him. If he is running a strikeout rate above the freezing point, which is 32 degrees for water, then that's going to signal a significant issue. And I think it dovetails nicely because then all you're going to go to is baseball savant stuff and everything is going to be ice blue cold. So I would even be willing, and I'd be interested to see what Ethan or Scott or Jonathan, what you think about this. I would be willing to sacrifice a few home runs, to get some more contact, because I wonder if there's a world where he can kind of settle into this, maybe not 85% zone contact rate. That's really high. But if he can settle into getting more contact, I wonder if there's a world where he gets comfortable enough where he can still selectively turn on some of these pitches and hit these bombs that just seem effortless to him. Now, I think that this is asking a lot of a guy who struggled his whole career with contact. But if this is going to be the key, they say that all the time with pitchers, just take a mile or two off and pinpoint your control a little better. If he's able to do this, and this is like, Ethan's point is true. It's like 5 or 6 games into the season, but this is like a transformational thing for a player and would be huge for us. Scott, I feel good about your mortgage, is what I'm saying. Yeah. I think you might be in a good shape. So
you guys are telling me 15 at-bats is a small sample size? What? It's so
Well,
true. It's
Make
so
sure everybody
true.
points at his 1,500 at bats as having a big sample size that we know who he is already, but whatever.
Listen. That's the Gorm speaking, Scott. Your Gorm is showing there. Sorry there, pal.
Flare up.
Yeah, it's a flare up. I think it's interesting. Just the eye test. You step away from some of this just to close the book on Gorman here. He just looks more comfortable. He did in spring training. I know we don't care about it, right? The stats in spring training. He looked more just in control at the plate. Same in these first couple games here, minus what we saw today because the Cardinals kind of put up a goose egg here as we record Friday night against the Tigers. But he just looks better. And these home runs that he's hit, they've kind of been tanks, and it doesn't really feel like he's gotten a hold of one yet. Feels like he's just kind of making contact, and this is what's happening. I hope that this is a good sign for him for many reasons. But let's get to the next one, guys. Let's get to the next one. All right, this player is running a 17.9% K rate, pretty high, 3% higher than in 2025. A 7.1% walk rate, which is 7% lower than 2025. And a 31.5 outside zone swing percent, which is 9% higher than 2025. So what I have described is someone who's striking out more, walking less, and chasing more. Who is this person? Scott, let's start with you again, man. You look so confident over there.
I got this one. I'm ready. I know.
I think let's go Pedro Pajes. Pajes.
Yes. All right, Ethan, what do you think, man?
I'm gonna go with Ivan Herrera.
Okay. Matt?
Those are great guesses. Those could not be more wrong. Let's lock this one in, boys. This is JJ Weatherholt.
Wow. The confidence is through the roof, and it is Jonathan Jameson David Weatherholt. I don't know if that's his name.
Well, okay.
It's JJ Weatherholt. Can you believe this?
Okay.
Is there going to be an accusation of cheating coming here, Scott? Is that what's coming?
In the group text,
Collusion.
not on the pod.
Okay.
All right, I tried to throw you off the scent here because I
It worked.
added his 2025. Those are minor league stats, right? So you can't count that for anything really. But I wanted to give it a fair shot. Just real quick, why did that give that away? Why were you certain on this?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's because of our group chat / the Discord. Get in there, folks. Patreon's free. The Discord, where you have pointed out over and over and over again that I think Weatherholt is pressing a little bit, and I think he wants to make a good impression, and he has made a great impression so far. But I think that's only natural for a rookie, a guy to come up in his first stint in the major leagues and press just a little bit. I expect him to kind of return to his baseline, and that baseline is so beautiful, the patience and the walk rate and stuff like that. And so I think Weatherholt's offense is going to point up from here. That's crazy to say because of how good he's been so far. But yeah, I just think he's swinging a little bit more to try to impact the game as a rookie.
Ethan, do you think, and I don't know how much you subscribe to like minor leagues automatically translates to the major leagues. That hardly ever happens, right? Weatherholt is a different pedigree of talent, of caliber, of prospect. Do you think that what we've seen very early on is going to continue? Do you think he settles down? Are you worried about anything that I've said? A higher K rate, slightly lower walk rate? What are your feelings there on that?
If it was more than 6 games, then maybe. But because it's such a baby sample size, I'm looking at JJ Weatherholt, and I'm looking more at the intangibles that we have seen so far, and that is 45,000 fans on their feet on opening day, like it was nothing. Clubs a ball 425 feet. That was nowhere near the strike zone. I'm looking at the walk-off base hit on Saturday afternoon against the Rays. I'm looking at him being able to read. Oh, who was the starting pitcher for the Mets in the first game? It wasn't Senga. Who was it? Who threw the first game for the Mets? I'm totally blanking.
Peralta?
Was it McLean?
Peralta?
No.
No, it wasn't either of those two. I'm totally
It was
blanking
the third
on
one.
who it was.
I don't know
I'm
either.
totally blanking on who it was, but drawing the walk, being able to force the balk, like I'm looking at those kinds of things right there. The baseball IQ I think has shown off early in the first handful of games. I'm looking at the very calm in what typically would rattle a 23-year-old kind of moments. And I think that that's reason to be excited for what we're going to continue to see with JJ Weatherholt. eventually once we get into it, and yeah, it'll be roller coastery at times. Probably there will be lulls, as does any major leaguer experience. But I think in the early going, you got to be really excited with some of these intangibles you've been able to witness from a guy that is so young, has shown so much maturity in a time where it'd be really easy to be able to see through him and recognize if he was going to crack, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, folks, the 31.5 outside swing percent always isn't bad. That's a home run right there, folks. 425 feet dead center. Scott, did you find out who pitched for us that game, or are we still just lost?
We're going Clay Holmes.
Okay.
That's
Clay
it.
Holmes, that's who it was. Yes. Gosh.
All right. I'm going to say you won this round. No, I'm kidding. All right, Scott, tell me your Weatherholt takes. Do you think any of this? Do you feel one way or the other about JJ with what you've seen so far?
I like that they were complaining about a 7% walk rate. When we're also complaining about how high his walk rate was in spring training. So we think we're going to settle, probably near that league average, which as a rookie learning the pitchers and all that stuff, and still having an above average K percentage, I think we're going to be okay with that. But before you go on, Jonathan, I just want to, because of the relevancy of the timing, Ethan, if we haven't talked about this at all either, the extension conversations, comparisons to Connor Griffin, like, is it too early for Weatherholt, or is it like because of the uncertainty, this is something that you want to see?
Pen to paper right now. Pen to paper right now. I feel like I tend to be a pretty conservative baseball fan, but I think there's something about seeing it happen all around you and knowing that there are multiple Cardinals over the last couple of years that people have been having these conversations about. It was Brendan Donovan. It was Mason Wynn. It was, even for a moment, Jordan Walker in 2023. There's been a handful of players that having these conversations about, but now that 2027 is getting so close and the uncertainty around the state of baseball, we don't know anything for sure. We don't know if there's going to be a cap. We don't know if there's not going to be a cap. But it feels like a lot of these teams are preparing as if there is going to be a cap, and they are locking in all of these ultra youngsters. I remember on my college sports talk radio show back in 2021 talking about Fernando Tatis's massive extension and saying he's played like 40 games. Why are we having this conversation? But now it feels like every team is just doing this to lock up who they feel like are guys that they're relatively confident that they can bring in. It gives me there's a couple of takeaways for me. One, these owners have more money than they act like they do. Like, the Brewers are one of the stingiest spending teams in baseball,
Preach.
and they just lock up their 4th ranked prospect on an 8-year deal. Like, come on, you can't fool us. We know you have the money to spend. So there's that side of it, but also it makes me think that these owners think that the direction in which this is heading is towards either a lockout or they're going to get their way. And that's why they're signing all of these players to these deals, so they can have these contracts grandfathered into whatever gets agreed upon. So I don't see any reason as to why you wouldn't want to lock up JJ Weatherholt. Now, maybe 6 games in is a little bit early. Surprise me if we see something happening in 2026. Because in today's day and age, these guys are proving more than ever that they are capable at younger and younger ages. So why not take a little bit of a gamble? You know that you have the money to spend. Why not? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Is JJ Weatherholt not going to pan out? Like, I mean, would you be really hurting yourself that much if JJ Weatherholt ends up being a 250 guy that has a 720 OPS, and over 8 years you're paying him what, 20 mil, 15 mil, whatever it is? Like, is that going to kill you that much? I don't think so, and I think we're all leaning more so on the side that we're pretty confident in who JJ Weatherholt's going to be. Game's got to be played still, but it's hard when you see a lot of these teams doing it. You wanna join the club and lock up your youngsters that you're excited about.
Let me hop in here super fast if I can, because I wonder if there's a window that the Cardinals missed, because we've talked about Wynn, we've talked about Herrera, and what's interesting is Mozeliak didn't lock anybody up last year, any of these young guys, and I think that was because everybody knew this transition was going to happen and taking place, and Bloom needed to be the one to make these decisions. But I just wonder, if Bloom had been in charge, would we have already done something with Mason Wynn or Ivan Herrera, something like that? I don't know if that's the case or not, but that does strike me as interesting, because there was a window there where everything was kind of paused on stuff like that.
I'm going
Yeah,
to keep
just
this
to
derailment going for
please,
30 more
please.
seconds. It's just like you got to wonder that, is this JJ Weatherholt thing, it's not even like we're paying him to be a superstar. Like Ethan just said, it's $15 million a year. Like that's somebody that is like a Brendan Donovan roster finisher, that you can still have the money to spend when you're in that contention window, to where, if he does perform like a superstar at $15 million, now you're a genius, but he's not going to kill you at $50 million is what, it's not this superstar. You see the $180 million, but then you break it down. You're like, oh, well, makes sense when it's the prime years that you're talking about.
And you have to do this kind of stuff. I know you talked about the Brewers. I mean, that kid hasn't even played in AAA. We're not talking about any games in the major leagues. He hasn't played in AAA. He's still in AA is what we're talking about here. And it's like, Cardinals fans, if this happens with Weatherholt, just pump the brakes, because the smart teams do stuff like this. And the Brewers, I hate to say this, are a model for stuff like this, because they have less money than we do. So it's time that we do things like this Scott's given us we know you have the money, dang it.
Yes.
We know it. You can't hide it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the JJ stuff's just total hype train. Okay, guys, let's get to this next one. I'm pretty excited about this because there's some real rando stats here, okay? All right, this guy has an 87.5 meatball swing percentage. Yep. Take it to Fazoli's. Get you some meatballs.
Zoli's, wow.
That's the first thing off the top of my dome here. All right, that's 7.5% higher than 2025. He has a 70.3 bat speed, which is 1 mile an hour higher, which is a pretty big deal. And a 67.9 attack angle percent. Like, this is so random. 14.5% higher than 2025. These are all swing metrics. The meatball decision, or the meatball swing, is more of a, is it in the plate? You're going to swing at it. Who in the heck is this? Ethan, you look like I don't know if you're praying to the big man upstairs. Do you have a guess for this one?
I'm trying to recall all of the content that I've seen on Twitter about whose bat speed is increased over the spring, and I can't remember.
Oh, I think you're focused on the wrong thing. Get the meatballs, buddy. Get the meatballs.
The swing speed makes me want to say that it's Victor Scott, but the meatball, I'm gonna end up biting myself here, but I'm gonna go back to Jordan Walker.
Okay. All right, Matt?
I think that's too slow on the swing. I think you had it right. I'm going Victor
so.
Scott. I think you were right initially. That's my guess.
All right, Scott, who you got?
Well, I didn't know if you were breaking rules again, but I just also wanted to use a moment to shout out Blaze Jordan for the absolute mammoth home runs he's putting on these whatever he hit 700 miles worth of homers yesterday alone. And I just want to keep that Blaze hype train, speaking of hype trains, going. I'm still trying to translate the things that you said to figure out what those actually are. Those aren't the numbers we see on Baseball Savant, so I couldn't even try to cheat. But it sounds like a witch doctor thing. So let's go Victor Scott with his crazy witch doctor Reese.
Ethan, dude, you had it. It was Vic. And I loved how you broke that down, because you were hitting all the right things. And Scott, this is the question. I'm going to ask you this question. Can we attribute the uptick in his swing stats to the witch doctor visit?
If it's Voodoo Victor, let's go for it. His new album, Voodoo Victor by Argo.
All right, but before I let Ethan vent his way through this one, let me just talk about this attack angle thing for 2 seconds, okay? You stumble into this. This is on Baseball Savant. They have a whole bat tracking section that's really interesting if you care to delve into those depths. It's the upward bat angle at the contact that maximizes exit velocity and more line drives, more fly balls. So to give that into context, Vic's is 67.9, Shohei Ohtani's is 65.2, and Kyle Schwarber's is 73.7. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Victor Scott is Shohei Ohtani. Okay, he's not, and he's not Kyle Schwarber. But the swing angle, the way he's doing it, if you're going to mimic somebody, those are not too bad people to mimic. Now, bat speed is another key element of that because we're talking about contact point. Well, Vic's bat speed is starting to inch up into the upper echelon of Major League Baseball. So I think the witch doctor might be onto something. Ethan, the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, I'm lamenting, and before I talk about Ethan Scott for a second, how many of these are we gonna go? Because I'm starting to panic about last place here.
Hey, man, you got the pitchers too. The pitchers could be
Okay,
easier
all
for
right.
you.
So we have
okay?
a little while here. Okay.
We got a little bit.
So I had the special opportunity to MC an event over the off season that Victor Scott was the speaker at. So Victor and I had some chances to be able to sit down together multiple times this off season, and then he also joined our podcast, the Loose Sports Talk podcast. Nice crew neck there, by the way, Scott. Looks good on you. You're wearing it well. Um, and
Man, the
Victor,
flexing right now from Ethan, just the flexing.
but I get to all this to say that some of the questions I was able to ask him behind the scenes were regarding some of the things that he has been working on this off season. He talked about the going back to West Virginia and all of the different lab testings that
Yeah.
he had done, the plate tests, whatever all those scientific gibberish things are. But he
Well,
was
this is
call it
what
witch
we're
doctor.
stupidly
Yeah.
calling, the witch doctor. That's what we call it.
okay. All right. Okay. Well, he talked about how he was able to almost, based off of the information that he learned, baby step his way through the off season, through the spring, and took this really slowly, and how it eventually led into obviously games. Man, you look at the athleticism that he has. This isn't a guy, you talk about the swing comparisons of some of the superstars of the game. He doesn't have to be anything near that because of his athleticism, because he is more athletic, way more than Shohei Ohtani, which is crazy to think about. But he doesn't even have to be that because of his athleticism. So you look at the corrections that he talked about making in the offseason. You saw the bat speed increase. You saw the hard hit rate increase in spring. That is carried into the start of the season. I think that's stuff to be excited about. We talked about how much Nolan Gorman could lengthen the heart of your lineup. I think on the other end, adding a second leadoff spot in J.J. Weatherholt in the 9, or excuse me, in Victor Scott in the 9, makes the 9-1 of Scott and Weatherholt so appealing, because it's going to lead to Weatherholt getting better opportunities. It's going to lead to Weatherholt getting RBI opportunities because of how much of a pest Victor is on the base paths. It helps the top so much if Victor Scott is able to continue having good plate discipline, good pitch selection, continuing to lay down bunts like he is. I'm just as excited about what we've seen from Victor Scott II in the first handful of games than I am about anyone, because we've been talking about the things that he wanted to implement, and he has been able to implement them, not just in the start of the regular season, but all throughout the spring. You look at what he's done leading up to now, it's like it's almost doesn't feel like that much of a surprise just based off of what you saw in the spring. It's a continuation.
Yep. Matt, you're corresponding from the weight room. Tell us how you feel about Victor Scott II and all of this very random stuff. And I'm glad, Ethan, you said not to compare him to Shohei. When I just compared him to Shohei, the stark contrast is Vic does not throw a splitter or a fastball, nor does he hit tank home runs, but he doesn't have to. So, Matt, please tell us your thoughts on Vic.
Yeah, here's the thing with Vic. He doesn't even have to be an above average hitter to be a valuable major leaguer, because we saw the defense today in Detroit. That's going to play in every park, everywhere. So to Ethan's point, if we can get him kind of going, just a league average hitter in that 9 hole, it's going to make this lineup a lot more dangerous. What I'm fascinated with him, with Gorman, with all these guys is, it's exciting that they're making changes and we're seeing the difference in their approach. Obviously, the season is far too young to draw any long-term conclusions about this stuff. But what I think will be super fascinating to track is if things get hard and this starts to not go well for Gorman or for Victor Scott, will they like run back to their hidey hole, kind of their comfy zone, and just and go back to some of the things that brought them to the major leagues, that made them incredibly successful baseball players? Like this new stuff that they're doing, how drilled into it is them? Are they going to be able to hold with these patterns? And if they can, that's the thing, though. We saw these changes in spring training. We're seeing them in the big leagues, in the majors. I think that there is a difference there if they can hold to them. I think holding them is going to be the key.
That's a really good point. That is a good point. All right, guys, that we're gonna wrap that for the batters. Okay, if we have time, I'll come back to one more, but I'm gonna move on to the pitchers. But before I move on to the pitchers, remember to take a look at our Patreon, Redbird Rundown. Get on our Discord game chats. It's a lot of fun. And you know what else is a lot of fun is getting your yard right. Okay. And this episode of the Redbird Rundown is brought to you by All American Tree Experts. Cardinals fans, if the trees in your yard are getting a little wild, branches hanging over the roof, limbs crowding the strike zone, or a stump that's been in the lineup way too long, it might be time for a little roster pruning. That's where Johnny and the crew at All American Tree Experts come in. They specialize in trimming, pruning, tree removal, stump grinding, and storm cleanup. Basically, if your yard needs a little clubhouse culture reset, they're ready to step up to the plate. They'll cut it back, clean it up, and have your yard looking like it just got called up from AAA landscaping. So don't just sit there barking at the ump. Give the ever-handsome Johnny a buzz at 618-316-2457. Let the pros handle the cutting and tell them that Redbird Rundown sent you. All American Tree Experts, keeping your trees trimmed and your yard out of the warning track. Okay, quick scoreboard check here. Scott has 2. Matt has 2. Ethan is just right. He's nipping at their heels. He's just right there, but he's still got time to come back. He does. Okay. He looks really confident. All right. Let's start with the first pitcher. He is rolling a 15.8 K percentage and a 15.8 walk rate. Both the same. K and walk rate is the exact same. And he has a minus 2.1 sinker run value, which is 14 lower than in 2025. So his K rate is much lower. His walk rate is much higher. And his sinker is a disaster. Matt, who is this?
It is my namesake, Matt Sponson, and it brings me pain to make that my guess, but he has struggled mightily so far. When I have written, he is pound for pound the best pitcher in the Cardinals franchise. So thanks a lot, Matt Sponson.
Okay, Ethan, your first foray into the pitching segment. What's it going to be?
Yeah, it is Matt Swanson. Last that I had checked, he had the same number of walks that he did strikeouts, so that was kind of the giveaway
tell.
for me. And then the safety of someone already picking him makes me feel a little more warm inside, at least to get on the board. So I'm gonna
Okay.
roll with Matt Swanson.
All right, Scott, are you going chalk here, or are you going to just throw a huge curveball?
Yeah, chalk so that Matt can continue to bask in the shame of the pound for pound best pitcher in the organization when we just saw Tanner Franklin just absolutely annihilate
Yes.
everything
Okay,
that was in his way.
okay.
Go
Make
ahead,
your
Matt
guess, buddy.
Sponson.
Make your guess, yeah.
Matt Sponson.
All right, very good. You guys are right. It's Matt Sponson. So,
Hey.
Scott, I'm going to come right back to you, buddy. We have called him our fire-breathing dragon. We called him that last week. He's lost his command a little bit. Is this for real, or is this is like 3 innings and we don't care? He's going to come back. Are you worried at all about old Svani?
I don't think this is going to be a Ryan Fernandez type downfall. I think that we've seen more consistency from Matt Swanson in the short time that we've seen him in the major league level, but he does have the minor league track record to back it up as well. I think that thinking of him as the closer was never really going to happen, even if we did think it, and I was in that train as included. But maybe the foray into if the Kyle Leahy experiment works and they go 2 for 2 in the Liberatore and Leahy, then maybe Swanson is going to be the next guy that they try that with.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, Ethan, bask in the glory of the win, the victory. You're on the board. Well, how do you feel about Swanson? I know small sample here. I know he looks different than last year. Is anything sticking its head out for you here?
Yeah, it doesn't feel as good considering, we all went chalk, but I'm on the board, so I'll take it. But I don't feel as good about Matt Swanson right now as I did in 2025, but I think that's that is fair. I mean, you look at the 2025 that he had, and I think I also thought he was going to be the closer for this team, but you saw the way in which they used him on opening day, and I think it very quickly became clear that Ali at least was going to try out a closer by committee scenario. I viewed the opening day appearance as this is the most important part of the game. You're in a tie ball game, and you need to you have runners on base, and that was my takeaway of this is the situation where you need a zero. There's runners on base. Matt Swanson, your best reliever, comes in. It has been a little start to the year for him, but I know you were talking about the walk rate. It's too early, in my opinion, to say anything about that. He produced a lot of soft contact, a lot of bad luck early on as well. I'm pretty sure last I checked, every single hit that he had allowed had been below league average exit velocity. So I think that tells you a lot about the way in which guys are getting on base against him. So way too early to start panicking about Matt Swanson, especially considering the 2025 and then the spring that he had.
Yeah. All right, Matt, go ahead. What do you got? Anything for Matt Swanson?
Jonathan, turn the TikTok camera on because
Uh-oh.
I'm going down on this ship. Matt Swanson is still our best reliever on the St. Louis Cardinals. He will be at the end of the year our best reliever on the St. Louis Cardinals. He will be at the end of the year the most solid choice to be the closer for the St. Louis Cardinals. And listen, he's done something to offend the BABIP gods because these hits he's giving up, Scott's daughter, Sienna, who has starred on this podcast before, can stand at home plate and throw the baseball further than some of these singles are going off of Matt Swanson. So everybody drink some settle down juice. He's going to be okay. He remains our fire-breathing dragon. And if somebody's got to pull this up on me in September in TikTok, then I am happy to go down on the HMS Matt Swanson and just die in the depths of the waters.
I love it. It just, from my opinion, it just looks like a command thing early on. He's kind of getting behind. He has to try to put something in the zone, and his stuff moves so much that they are getting this weak contact. I think he's going to be just fine. I still think he's amazing. All right, next
Sienna
pitcher.
catching strays. I just don't know what she did to
No.
that one.
No. I think Sienna's got an arm. I'm just saying.
Still has an MVP haircut. Carrying on. All right, guys. I think this will be easy for you, but we'll see. In his first start, this man's Stuff Plus was a rosy 78. 78. Okay, 100 is where you want to be, like league average of 78. His Location Plus was 105. His K per 9 was 7.50. And his Sierra is 4.35. Again, these are all stats that are pretty deep down in there. Who is this person? Scotty P, we're going with you first. Who is this?
I want to say Michael McGreevy, but he was getting more swing and miss, so that makes me wonder why the stuff would be so low beyond just the velocity. But the control command, let's go McGreevy and keep it moving.
Okay, Ethan.
You said this. What did you say the Stuff Plus was at?
78.
So that and then it's McGreevy seems like the safe option. I think like when you immediately think of Stuff Plus, you think of does it reflect in the box score, but with the velocity being down, that makes me think this could almost be a little bit of a trick question. But you also said that this should be sort of easy, so that makes me think that it might not be because he was so good in his first outing. So now I'm thinking that I might switch.
No.
It can't be Dustin May, right? I mean,
St. Louis, you have never seen Ethan Hannaford more shook.
His location was just all over the place in the first one. I'll stick with McGreevy. God, I'm gonna get it wrong.
Okay, McGreevy. Matt?
All right, I'm going to confidently I think, run straight into a wall, and I'm going with Andre Palate.
Oh, wow. It is Michael McGreevy.
Okay, all right. Whew, all right. We're getting somewhere.
Never a doubt. Never a doubt.
Here we go.
Scott just has this unshakable confidence at the beginning, and he's just like, I think it's this, and he's dead right every time. I don't know how you're doing it, Scott. I don't know how you're doing it. Okay, the 78 Stuff Plus was a weird one for me to read because he was so successful. And at the time, he had a start today, but these numbers do not reflect that. He was the worst qualified starting pitcher in all of Major League Baseball per Stuff Plus, but had a 0 ERA. 0. That's pretty good. Didn't throw
You
up
said
any
that
kind of
one
runs. We like
was
that.
an easy one.
It's easy. It's easy when you're looking at the answer, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah. So anyway,
we got it
all
right because it was so obvious.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
sure. Yeah.
Okay, Matt, we're going to start with you on this
Yeah.
one. Can he keep getting away with such low Stuff Plus numbers and be successful in this league? And Stuff Plus isn't everything. I'm not hitching my wagon to that. It is an indicator of spin and velocity, and it is a helpful thing. You want to have stuff, right? But can he do this?
Nope. And this
Okay.
is nothing against Michael McGreevy. Everybody was clamoring for him last year when we had to watch Miles Michaelis and Eric Fetty throw every fifth. Well, really 2 out of every 5 days. It was a rough year in St. Louis last year. So people were clamoring for McGreevy, and I understood that. Like, let's get the guy up. Let's see what he's got. And I was saying this last season, this is not going to be like the savior of your rotation. This is, and I've been saying this a lot lately, but we'll just keep going with it. This is Miles Michaelis Jr. So Miles Michaelis had some seasons where he was extremely successful, and I bet Miles Michaelis' Stuff Plus, not even today, but I bet his historic Stuff Plus is not above 100. He never had the stuff. He had the pinpoint accuracy, location. So I think there will be games when McGreevy can, snipe his way to a pretty good line. I think all told over the course of the season, he is going to have some outings where he gets rocked because he just doesn't have the swing and miss. And so those BABIP gods that Matt Svanson has made so angry, hopefully McGreevy doesn't, because I think he's going to live and die by that.
Yeah. All right, Scott, Mr. Michael McGreevy, truest, purist. You knew it straight off the jump. How do you feel about all this stuff? Like, do you subscribe to the Stuff Plus? Like, do you think he could be successful? We've seen him do it. Clearly, he's done it. What do you think about it?
Shout out Punching Bag of the Pod for the historic performance of the 11-hit, 11-run, never been seen before pitchigami from Miles Michaelis today. But I will say, Michael McGreevy, you kind of knew there were a few that were hits that were going to be close that he got away with today, and I'm gonna go today, even though we're using previous numbers.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I am also very familiar with giving up home runs off of scoreboards when you throw 88 to 90 miles an hour, and phantom IL for whiplash from watching that ball fly over your head real quick. But shout out best name in baseball right now, Dylan Dingler. Check out his country album coming out too, I think. Jeff Jones said that McGreevy knows that the velocity's down and he feels like he's close to unlocking something. And we're not going to see 96, 97, but I think we're not far away from seeing 92, 94. And I'm glad that he does still have the command so that when the velocity does come up, it's just going to make him all that more effective. So he'll get away with it, but I think we have to be true with his ceiling as a 4 or 5 in a competitive rotation.
I mean, I didn't think we'd hear a Dingler reference. Ethan, take us to McGreevy. How do you feel about Michael McGreevy?
I don't know what the heck you want me to say about Dingler here. I mean, I hope his album's really good, but I mean, uh, no, I think you guys summed it up pretty well when it comes to Michael McGreevy. The situation with the decrease in velocity on the fastball in a way reminds me of what Sonny Gray had to go through last year. The only difference is
That's
that
true.
Sonny Gray was a swing and miss pitch going into that, and then early in the year he had to learn how to adjust to a new type of pitch to contact, at least for the time being, before we saw that velocity start to tick back up again. The difference is that Michael McGreevy is already a pitch to contact pitcher, and now the velocity is lessening. So it just means that he's going to have to be that much better with his breaking pitches and his off speed stuff if the fastball is not going to be a reliable pitch for him. You hope that he is close to figuring it out. The comments today were interesting. It doesn't really give us much besides he doesn't have the answer yet. So the hope is that he can find the answer soon. This is a guy that we talk about how we're probably going to see some blow up starts or some rough outings this year. Let's not act like we didn't see that in the second half of 2025 either from him, though.
Yeah.
Like I know when he was kind of on the taxi squad and going back and forth, everyone kind of looked at him as the second coming because he was like when he would come up he would look really good. But once he got into that rotation consistently, he had some moments of struggle. So, I mean, I think you've already seen bits and pieces of that. Is what I'm trying to get at. But you certainly are going to want to see that velocity increase at some point. Otherwise, he's just going to have to be that much better with his secondary pitches.
Yeah, I mean, he could just become Greg Maddux, and it's fine, right?
Oh, fine.
Oh, okay, no,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Sure.
Sure. I mean, if that's the the next logical step. All right. Let's do a quick scoreboard check here. We got Scott, I think, has 4, which is what we all thought and knew was going to happen. Matt has 3. Ethan, you have 2. Okay, we have time for one more. I'll give, since you're the guest here, do you want to do a batter or a pitcher?
Well, I'm 2 for 2 on pitchers so far. So I think we have to do pitcher because of just how atrocious it was with the lineup. So
Okay, so folks,
Losing
just so you know,
confidence.
that's right. The anticipation, the pressure here. If Ethan gets this right and Matt gets this wrong, there's a tie. And I think
goes to the guest for sure.
I was gonna say we're gonna have to figure out. I'm related to one of them, and I could easily pull something there. Okay, we're gonna go with the pitcher. Okay, here's who we're gonna go with. This pitcher has a 13.3 whiff percentage this year, which is 6% lower than last year. Not getting much whiff. He has a 55.6% hard hit rate, which is 11% higher than last year, and a 54.5% first strike rate, which is 5% lower. So he's not getting much whiff. He's getting kind of crushed with hard hit rate, and he's not finding the zone with those first pitches. Scott, let's just get this over with. Just get it right first so we can get to the other 2.
With a first strike percentage already under 60%, and then to see it 5% lower even this year, I'm just going to use my opportunity to say Andre Palante.
Okay. Ethan?
I'm going to go with Kyle Leahy.
Okay. Matt?
Scott, is your laptop open over there? Is that what's going on?
That's how we record this, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's really drive up the stakes then. Let's build the tension. And I am going to say Matthew Liberatore.
Wow, it is a first, folks. You're all wrong. This
so
I
is
win.
Dustin May. It's Dustin May. Yeah, so Scott wins. Ethan got the bronze, which is still a medal. Okay. And Matt is firmly in silver. So as Ethan prepares for this very difficult punishment, I'm sure it's going to be very difficult. Okay, so that was Dustin May. That I wanted to try to highlight with him. He had one bad start. Let's just be honest here. This is not meant to catapult us into some overreaction that, he's going to be terrible. But we have not seen much of Dustin May. A few spring training starts, nothing really with a good camera angle that's not shaking from the wind or some random thing happening in spring training. But it was interesting to see he got smoked. If you look at Baseball Savant, you look at the box score, there's a lot of little flamies next to the batters of hard hit rate, which tracks based on this. So I'll start with you on this one first, Ethan. I know it's one start. Did you glean anything for May? Do you think he's going to be good for us? Do you think this is just him just working out some kinks? Does it matter? This doesn't affect you? Or do you think that this has changed things and you're not sure what you think about Dustin May anymore?
Anyone that is saying that it has changed things after one start needs to have a little psychic checkup or something, because it's too early. It's just too early. We can't go from sharing the level of excitement that we had about Dustin May, about the increase, or should I say return of velocity, about him being back to weight, all of these things being healthy, and then after one starts, just throw it all out the window. We can't. I actually, on my own podcast, picked him to be the Cardinals MVP this year. I said whether he was a Cardinal or not, whether it's the return you get for him at the deadline, or if it's based off of how he contributes throughout the entirety of the year, he's going to be the Cardinals MVP. So I'm still sky high on Dustin May. And I think that Ollie Marmol is too. Now, to be fair, I think Ollie Marmol would tell you he's sky high on every single guy on his 26 man. But it's hard to not buy in on a lot of the things that he says about his guys and especially a guy like Dustin May, when you saw once he was able to return to well, I just mentioned all of the things on top of add a curveball into the mix more, something that he talked about wanting to do and how the Cardinals wanted to prioritize that. It seems almost I don't want to say too good to be true because that isn't entirely like fit here, but it seems like just a really good scenario. Way too good for one bad start to mess up.
Right. And before I kick this over to you, Matt, I did want to say something that doesn't get captured very well in metrics or any kind of stats are game calling. You know, this is the first time. I know they had spring, but I didn't think that the game was called like wonderfully. There was a lot of like, 1-2 sweepers in the middle of the zone. I know he's got to execute, but you don't think about that necessarily when you look at some of the stats, and I think that could have affected May's first start. But Matt, what do you think about Dustin May so far?
Agree. I think it's just going to come down to health. So as far as we know, that's fine. The velocity was there. The breaking stuff was there. Seems like probably some command issues. And maybe that's just simply comes down to the first time pitching at Busch on the mound, right? There's just could be an enormous number of variables that could have affected him. So I am interested to see, like, going forward, though. He had he's never really had like a full year pitching, but in those years with the Dodgers where he was stellar, he really did strike a lot of guys out. And so is that just completely and totally gone? Is he going to be a ground ball kind of guy with that sinker, or do we get any kind of return at all with that strikeout punch? That would obviously be enormously helpful. To Ethan's point on the trade market, that would be enormously helpful to contending teams. So as far as I don't think any differently about him, but what I will be tracking is how many Ks can he get? Will that come back at all?
Scott, our champion, my friend, tell me, what do you feel about Dustin May?
Yeah, as the winner at the top of this pedestal, I can get the rest of this podcast up here. But I kind of said the same way as Ethan did in a different way, as far as the health being the most important part for Dustin May, and not for the Cardinals to win, but because to ensure they get something. I keep saying I was upset it wasn't a 2-year deal, just to give you some possibility in case there was that health, or if he does perform well and outperform, that you could hold on to him and then reevaluate. But the velocity maintaining was great. I don't know if we can expect a 12K per 9 or something like that. We've been hearing about the Cardinals' whole pitching revamp, and that part was why he went to St. Louis, as well as like wanting to use the new pitches. So we'll see. Again, it's early, but I'm encouraged by what he showed in spring with the velocity. But let's see if that plays with his other stuff as well.
Yeah, you heard it from the top of the mountain. Scott Plaza, winner of the first annual Sabermetrics stat guessing game. Now, let's get to the punishment with my air quotes here, okay? Ethan's ready. He's been a good sport this whole time. All right, Ethan, my friend, you have to give me your best 30-second argument as to why pitcher wins is the only stat that matters.
God.
I thought I was going to say, why is Pedro Paje still on this team?
Well, I tried to make it.
Just kidding.
All right, so pitcher wins is taking a really hard tumble over the years. Okay, if you're listening and you're not sure about that. So since this is such a sabermetric, real specific stats, pitcher wins is kind of in the bygone era. So, Ethan, tell us, my friend, why pitching wins is the only thing that matters.
So I think that my main argument for this would be, at the end of the day, the only stat that matters, in baseball is the win column, the team win column, right? It's what decides what gets you to the playoffs. It decides who you play. It sets you up for the entirety of the postseason. I think that starting pitchers of old took great pride in being able to stack up those W's in that column, because in their eyes, it is their way of showing how they were able to contribute to their team, hopefully getting to the promised land at the end of the day, which is winning the World Series.
I tell you what, boys, a round of applause. Bob Gibson's, he's feeling great wherever he is, right? He loves the wins. It just reminds me of that,
I heard pictures of old there, and then heard Promised Land, and thought like Moses and Abraham were like thundering from the heights on this podcast. That's good stuff.
That's exactly right. Well, Ethan,
It's
thanks,
probably
man.
the only argument you could. It's probably the only case you could really make, man.
It's good enough for Bob Gibson. It's good enough for us.
That's
I
exactly
guess
right. I was
so.
gonna say thanks for joining today. Thanks for playing along, being a good sport. Before we get you out of here, I know I alluded to some of the things that you do at the top of the show, but wanted to give you an opportunity to plug all the stuff you want to plug. Where can folks find you?
Yeah, I'm on X or Twitter, Instagram, all the things at ECHANN7, ECHAN7. And then our podcast is the Loose Sports Talk podcast. You could watch it on STL Sports Central's YouTube channel. You can also listen to it on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Follow us on all the social media pages at Loose Sports Talk _. Constantly, just updating on episodes, clips, giveaways. As you see what Scott is wearing there, that was one of our recent giveaways that he had. I don't even have one of those myself. Like, that is how rare those are. So I gotta get one of those for myself because I think it looks really good. But yeah, so Loose Sports Talk, like and subscribe to STL Sports Central, only the digital media platform in St. Louis covering all St. Louis sports. They do great stuff over there. Excited to be a part of that team. And do some stuff in the mix for Camel X as well. So might hear me on some post game stuff or grabbing some audio, doing some clubhouse reporting for the Cardinals over there as well. But yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. Happy to join anytime.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, you heard it here, folks. That is the episode of the Redbird Rundown, and Scott Plaza is the winner. This is your go-to source for all things St. Louis Cardinals. Be sure to subscribe on Patreon and on YouTube. Rate and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram for the latest updates. Keep those rally caps on, and let's go Cards.
Sienna Plaza with the gun.
Small sample size.